saw the gaslighting, the bully tactics that take place behind the scenes of other creators, and knew it wouldn't be myself. So now the narrative shifts to how could you record a phone call, betray a friend? Well, hold on a second. It was just about money. It was just, this is just business, and now it's, hey, we're really good friends. Well, which is it? I mean, you kind of have to pick a lane, right? Are we good friends, or are you sending out a boilerplate contract that you demand of everybody, according to what they say, that have 110% penalties on behalf of big tech? And the issue with that is that it's dishonest. It's a tactic of the left. It's a tactic, the same kind of tactic that you see from the left, the gaslighting, where if you, let me ask you this. If someone came out,
real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, you said 110% penalty?
Yeah, you can see the contract right there. If you add them all up.
So you,
because there's boycott penalty,
or what?
Yeah.
It's a fair point.
Yeah. And this is the issue. I made it clear it wasn't about me. It's about other people. It's about this being the fundamental practice. And by the way, it's not just Daily Wire, to be clear. This happens in this incestuous sphere across the board. What would you do? This is my question.
Real quick, let me ask. My concern is, if people aren't familiar with the total context, you leave the blaze, or in the process of, you're fielding offers. Mm-hmm. You receive a contract.
A term sheet, not a contract.
Yes,
which people are semantically
a predecessor to a contract, but
which is basically the terms they're offering for a contract.
Right.
Some people have argued, but the point is, they basically said, you will be penalized 25% if you get a strike.
No, if you're demonetized.
If you're demonetized.
Then another 20% if there's a strike. Then another 20%, I don't remember the numbers for Facebook, for Spotify, but there's also another penalty if your sponsors get boycotted. There's also another penalty if you don't agree to 10%, if you deny 10% of the sponsors, which is probably like you, we probably accept 1 out of 5 sponsors. But let me just kind of go through this timeline really quickly.
For people who are trying to understand what's going on, it's basically the contract you received specifically outlined
term
YouTube.
sheet. Term sheet.
The term sheet you received.
I don't know if it matters.
Said YouTube.
You don't put something in a term sheet that you don't want in a contract.
Right.
Nope.
It said YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and Facebook.
Yeah.
Specifically, if these big tech companies are upset with you, we dock your pay.
Yes.
That's an important distinction.
Hold on. And not even dock his pay. I want to be very clear here. This is a production house. This is our budget that gets docked. Steven is not just taking, this is not basketball where you pay Kyrie Irving to go out and shoot hoops, right?
Sure.
You're paying an entire team of people to produce.
Before we get to that, before we get to like the finances,
let's go through the timeline.
Let me ask you this. If someone publicly was going, and by the way, I'm not going to be doing the personal stuff. I'm not going to be coming in here calling anybody a bitch, right? Sending out hatchet people. I understand why Candace was mad. Honestly, I understand why she was mad. I'd probably be mad too. So I don't think it gives you an excuse to go and talk the way like every girl does who gets their husband into a fight at a bar. But I understand why she was upset. If you had the ability, if someone's going out saying, hey, you're a difficult person who only cares about the money, and that you're a bitch, and you had the opportunity to clear your name because it was verifiably untrue, which now no one is arguing, would you do it? How else would people switch from, it was about a $50 million salary to, recording a phone call? Do we allow it when James O'Keefe does it? Is it only when corruption is on the side of the left? And here's the issue, is I'll tell you who this hurts, the dishonesty. I'm not just saying, Daily Wire, this is about the entire movement as a whole. There are a lot of practices that go on, and it hurts the sponsors, hurts the creators, hurts the viewers, hurts the investors. And by investors with us, it's entirely Mug Club. It's people who pay to subscribe. We don't make a dime off of YouTube. We haven't for many years. And it hurts if you believe what we say we believe, the movement in the country as a whole. So that right there, is fundamentally dishonest. And the gaslighting still keeps taking place. Candace Owens on this show said, hey, we all follow the same guidelines, right? We all follow the same. Crowder does too. That's verifiably false. And I'll say you can publicly audit this. We've had 4 strikes, right, since May, I think, 2021 to October 2022. One was the Mekhi Bryant. One was a sketch with Alex Jones. That one's guilty. One was
as charged.
One was him quoting the CDC. And by the way, none of this will get you in trouble because you can say this now. Him quoting the CDC.
I did, yeah.
Bringing up the CDC numbers on flu deaths for children versus COVID. And we were saying this is interesting science, right? That COVID kills more senior citizens, but for some reason it's significantly less lethal to young people, to infants. That science is accepted now, so you won't get a strike. But that was one of the strikes. The other was when we had Carrie Lake on in a gubernatorial election. 4. How many have taken place from Daily Wire? You guys, 0. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying it's a badge of honor. I'm not saying that it's a badge of honor to be suspended. If they came out and said, look, we demand, as Jeremy said in his 55-minute video, we demand that all of our creators follow these rules that YouTube and Facebook set through punitive practices in mandating of our creators to do so. And Crowder's a little bit more of a rebel. You know what? He's been banned for 4 times. And that's not the same kind of, that's not a problem. The problem is saying that we all follow the same rules because so that's all publicly verifiable. Now, Now, I could tell you guys that behind the scenes, I've had many conversations with senior YouTube executives who say, we might be able to get you remonetized if you kind of play ball like these guys, Daily Wire, and insert other people here. I could tell you that, but would you believe me? Would I have to provide receipts? I could tell you that takes place. That hurts the creators out there who they end up, hitting a glass ceiling that is set, the sandbox that is mandated to their creators. The same thing happens with sponsors.
Well, let me ask you real quick. What does that mean, play ball?
Phone call with sponsors. Look.
But if I could ask you, did YouTube reach out to you and say, hey, do you want to play ball with us?
We have conversations all the time with YouTube.
Got it.
Matter of fact, I can tell you that, here's the thing. I'm not going to be providing receipts to people who don't want to be involved. Right? There's a difference between single-party consent state and wiretapping. You don't rope people in who are victims, but if it's an entity that you believe is predatory, that's the difference. There are good people at YouTube. There are some good people there who want, but their hands are tied. And guess what? Everyone else's hands are tied if you say, hey, we're all trying to fight this system that exists, but you're not. You're mandating that you exist within the system. Only one person is saying, hey, you know what? If you want to be monetized and you don't, that's fine. And one is saying, you have to fit into this box.
Very important context to this is, obviously, after you put out the first video, I've talked with a bunch of my friends, and they said, look, Daily Wire is trying to run a business. If he gets banned off YouTube, how are they going to sell ads? How are they going to do the sponsorships? Where his views are gone.
Yeah.
And I've seen people tweet, all of Crowder's views come from YouTube anyway, so he'd basically be unmonetizable if he was banned. And then I point out, first of all, that's just categorically false.
Yeah, it's not true.
Because Rumble exists. And
Ben streamed there for the first time today.
And this is an important context. The contract you were offered says Facebook, Apple, I said YouTube, Apple, Facebook, Spotify, but it didn't mention any of your views from any other platforms. And there's Google Podcasts. They get views. I know the numbers. Obviously, it's not the same as say Apple, but it's interesting to me that for a lot of people, like Dan Bongino, for instance, had more subscribers on Rumble than YouTube.
Yeah,
it's interesting then that their attitude is, if you're banned from YouTube, it's a 20% fee reduction, which you mentioned includes your staff
25.
salary. 25.
And then 25 for and then another 20. It's 45. In other words, for us, right off the bat. And this is the thing. I said, is this an accident? In other words, okay, we're good.
But let me
friends. But hold on a second. Does anyone here have a problem? Do you not believe me when I say we haven't been monetized on YouTube for 3 years? You all know that, right?
Of course.
Literally,
and we're not that close.
0 days, or did you have?
So what happened is we were demonetized. How many years ago? Then someone accidentally remonetized us for like 4 months, and then demonetized. And then demonetized again. We were like, "What happened?" And they were like, "Yeah, actually, sorry, you're demonetized again." I was like, "Well, skunked again."
So what did we do to get monetized? Basically,
but of course they can't answer, right?
I want to make sure this point is made clear for everybody because this is a very important part of the argument. When I heard it, if the point is you can't sell ads or build an audience because YouTube banned you, and that's it. But you're getting 85% or more views on Rumble. The question is, why no penalty for getting banned from Rumble? Why is Rumble not a consideration in the contract at all? And why don't they simply say comparable views instead of the platform? Right. Like, if for every 1 million views per day you lose, we dock you X%.
I can answer you that question exactly. Because
so what happened?
It's fundamental to the business model. And I was informed of that. It is fundamental. In other words, there are plenty of options out there, right? He can tell you. I get excited when I walk out of them and I go, hey, how many people were tuning in live on YouTube? How many on Rumble? They go, oh, it's tipped. There are more people on Rumble. Sure, I've been on YouTube for a long time, since 2006. But it doesn't mean that they don't change, right? And the issue is, I think it's a great thing to use these platforms. There's a huge difference, by the way, between being monetized and being on the platform.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we believe what we say, we have to be trying to get to the point where we know that fast forward 5 years, you can't speak the truth on YouTube, certainly not if you want to be monetized. But there's this jockeying for position with people who they see as competition. And the issue here that I've always made clear is the locking in of these punitive contracts that mandate and enforce big tech policies and guidelines as a matter of business. And that hurts creators. And the same thing, by the way, when we're talking about misleading practices with sponsors, there's no problem, right? And this is all publicly verifiable. I want you guys to be able to audit this so that there don't have to be as many receipts provided. You market your channel, right? I think we probably have some ads running right now, like Spotify, hey, if you like this show, tune in on Spotify. Yeah. But there's a big difference. We know that there's a huge problem in our industry of pay to play. Now, you can do that. That's fine. If you want to grow your numbers. But
what is that?
So pay to play means that you can buy views, right? You can pay to play. You can run your video as a pre-roll ad, and people see that number. But really, a lot of them are 14-second views, 8-second views, but it still clicks that counter. The closest apples to apples comparison that you could do right now is you could go out and take, let's say, not this controversy because there's cross-pollination, but Ben Shapiro's a huge show. Of course he is. But go take some videos there right now that have 1 million plays. Go month after month. Take a bunch of them. Look at the likes. Look at the comments. Take videos from my channel. comparable plays. Take them with 800,000, 600,000 plays because we've converted them a lot to Rumble. Look at the likes, look at the comments. It's startling because it's a lot easier to buy plays than it is to buy likes and comments. That's not a problem.
Wait, are you saying that the Daily Wire is buying views for their content?
I'm saying that they run the videos. This happens not just Daily Wire, to be clear. Stop Big Con is designed because of this entire industry. And what happens is, yes, these views get inflated. There's nothing wrong with running ads to increase the video count. The problem is this. When that is used to then go out and set sponsorship rates. And then this is what happens with creators. When you sit down with sponsors, and these are hard-earned dollars, right? A lot of them are mid-sized companies. You run them on this show and they say, yeah, but you know what? We didn't get our money's worth, and this person is the number one show. Because they go out and they say that they have these numbers, and they set what happens? They drop those rates across the board, which hurts everybody, or they pull out altogether. Now, you can publicly verify that information. Now, I could tell you guys that I've had conversations with sponsors that say, we're not going to be running in the conservative space because it's just not as effective as we thought it was, or you know what, we're going to be pulling out. And content creators just say, why am I getting these low advertising rates? Here's the issue. If you're some kid, and by kid, I mean, you could be a 40-year-old with a smaller podcast. Let's say you get 250,000 plays. Not as big, but good numbers. Let's say you get 500,000 plays, right? Good numbers, but they're real. And you are a conservative, and you're trying to grow this. And then all of a sudden, your content, YouTube is saying, can't say that, can't do that because of the box that's being created by all of these companies in big conservatism. And then you're trying to make it, right? You're trying to make it something that is financially solvent, and you can't because sponsors no longer have faith in this side of the industry. That is something that hurts those creators. And this is something so the creators are hurt, the sponsors are hurt, the viewers are hurt because I just want to finish this one, and then any questions you have. The viewers are hurt because they feel isolated. They feel like their views are not represented, right? They go, hold on a second, I'm conservative. Why are none of the top people saying whatever it is? X, Y, Z. And the investors are hurt. And I don't mean billionaires. In our case, it's people who invest. When they sign up for Mug Club, they are paying us because they say, we know that you're demonetized. We know that you don't run nearly as many sponsors. You're very selective. And we think we are giving you our dollar in faith because we think that you are fighting for us. Imagine, let me give you one final parallel world there. Imagine if we left the blaze, okay? And this, again, the issue is that everyone is demanded to sign these exact same contracts. That's what they said. They've been very, very clear about that. It's just business. Imagine if Mug Club leaves the blaze. And let's say we come back 2-3 months, okay? And we come back, and all of a sudden, I don't talk about vaccines in the way that I used to. All of a sudden, I don't talk about election integrity like I used to. All of a sudden, I don't host Carrie Lake in the same way that I used to, or host her at all. And all of a sudden, all the parodies, the sketches, the sweeping epic, like a parody of Saving Private Ryan, or There Will Be Blood, or Schindler's List, whatever it is, you don't see any, change my mind, you don't see any of those anymore, but you see 4 or 5 live reads. I'd be the definition of a sellout. And I would be selling out the people who paid for something different. Only one group of people here is saying, you have to fit into this box. I'm saying, you got to let some people let the freak flag fly. I don't care if you want to be monetized or not. Don't lock people and punish them on behalf of big tech when you claim that you are fighting them. And it is everywhere. And it's disheartening.
I want to get into the problem solving. Like, what would you do if you were the Daily Wire?
Okay, so the only thing, and this is the thing, this is all done right now. I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but the first answer, and I've said, we won't talk about this again. If someone takes a pledge alongside me, anyone in BigCon, just the only thing that I ask is that you do not punish conservative content creators on behalf of big tech. That's it. Start with that. Let's start with that. Before we get to everything else, right? So a lot of times people want the entire solution. Just start with that. You won't be penalized 25% if you're demonetized on YouTube by the people who are supposed to be fighting for you.
Now let's address the argument there.
Yeah.
The argument they've made is, why should we be the ones to lose money if you're removed from the platform and not making money?
And that sounds really great, right? It's a partnership. That's what they were talking about. They were trying to pick like a partnership and put it into contract form, or at least in this, like a term sheet, right? Well, what it didn't take into account, honestly, is what if Steven, okay, it's $12.5 million. What if he's making them 30? What if he's making them $30 million
That's a starting point,
a year?
It's a guarantee.
Yeah. What if he's making them $30 million a year, and all of a sudden, instead of making 30, you subtract 2 from that. So it's fine to share in these things when the expenses come up, but when the upside comes up, we're not really in a partnership anymore.
This
wasn't about money, guys.
We would be the only ones at risk.
It's just disingenuous.
The only ones at risk. I'm already demonetized.
I can hear Jeremy being like,
it was a term sheet. I would have negotiated.
I can hear him.
Well, look, I can write that I want to have sex with your wife on a term sheet. Oh, I thought you were going to redline it. It's like, come on, that doesn't.
Okay, George just stands up. I had sex with your wife.
This is a good point. It penalized you. If you get banned, you lose X%, And
No matter how much you're making.
45.
no matter how much you're making,
No.
and no matter how much you lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you lose $0, they penalize
And
you.
the penalties add up to 110%. And they said in their own video, this is demanded of all creators, right? Does anyone disagree that that's what was said? This is what everyone signs. Now here's the issue with that. Again, you don't put it in if you don't want that.
The counterpoint, Candace said, is she negotiated. She hired a lawyer.
Yeah.
Steven Crowder has the resources to hire a lawyer and redline this.
Sure.
She put on her
I thought
big
we were
girl
good
pants.
friends.
I figured
Thought
out
we were
why
friends.
Candace was so pissed last
So
week
hold on,
when she
wait.
came in.
Yeah.
I figured it out. I'll tell you about it in a second.
I want to let's talk about the friends thing. This is actually a really good point. You recorded co-CEO of Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, on a phone call.
Yep.
He says, "I thought we were friends."
Yep.
A lot of people have said, "Wow, that was a messed up thing to do." It sounds like what you're saying in the context we were just talking. They sent you a business contract that was very bad, that penalized you 110% if all fees are applied, more money than they would actually pay you. And it didn't take into consideration if you made them more money. It didn't take into consideration how much money you made them. It didn't take into consideration if you were banned from Facebook, but Facebook generated no revenue. They
Yeah.
still penalized you.
That's part of
So
it.
here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm thinking. If the question is, and I do have qualms about recording the recording, but we'll get into more detail.
Mm-hmm.
They say you were supposed to be friends. Why would you record your friend's phone call?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's an interesting point to be made. Why would your friend send you a very, very bad contract that felt exploitative?
And why would a friend not listen to you when you say, take me off the table, it's not a fit? There was never, just to be clear, there was never another offer that came through after I said, these are the non-starters. The penalties for big tech, right? The owning of people's names, image, likeness, their platforms are in perpetuity long after they leave. I said, then we can talk about the money, right? He said they came in low, and I'm sure my gay Cuban hardcore right-wing agent came in high. You find that, but it's like, but there can't be any terms without this. Once I said that can't happen, then these terms, the big tech penalties, that's when talks completely stopped. It was never changed and said, of course, all these. It's like you saw in their first video. We have to make money.
They outright said that fee structure couldn't be changed.
Yeah, there was never another offer after that. I said, look, this is the sticking point. You have to get rid of all of these.
Change it. And
also, we can't do this. I'd love to sit as from one business owner to another. You don't have to do it this way, right? A good example is, look, I feel vulgar talking about numbers. Election night. Okay, election night. We had been suspended for having Carrie Lake on. The entire Daily Wire cast on YouTube, less than a quarter of the viewers that we had on Rumble. When we cross streams, their viewership went up 40,000 people. That's proof of product that, hey, look, proof of concept. You can do it off of YouTube. You don't have to.
Right.
I think you use the platform as long as you can, but you need to start building alternatives. It is fundamental to the business model on the right to not change that.
And I'll just point out that we have about 120,000 more live viewers than we average with you being here. So there's something to be said for
I think
that.
Daily Wire's got some creative, like a lot of opportunity on their website. Because like if all your back catalog was on Daily Wire at no cost.
So we stopped selling, but that's something that's completely off the platform. But the point is, right, there needs to be someone standing up to these giant organizations. And when you say, like Jeremy said in his video, well, we only met with Susan Wojcicki once and we were really going in and defending Steve. It's like, okay, hold on a second. Are you the biggest, most influential, fastest growing conservative network in the world? Or did you spend time going in and fighting for the little guy and were completely ineffectual? You can't have both. One of those things is true. The inconsistencies are the issue here, and that's a tactic of the left. I fully expect them to come out and say, this is a lie, switch the narrative from the phone call, switch the narrative from the money. Now that that's gone, probably a hit list like the Vox Apocalypse, probably get personal. This is why people don't speak out. This is why good people don't run for office, and we shouldn't be doing that on the right. Bless you.
Thank you. I want to pull up this story right here. Story. I want to look at this email that you've shown me.
Yeah.
The Daily Wire tried poaching one of your employees, and what would make this significant is if this happened after your negotiations.
Yes, it
Okay, so after you're talking,
and it's not the first time that this has happened.
But real quick. After you were talking with the Daily Wire about potentially doing a deal, they reach out to your employees. And I'm looking at the email right here saying that they came across the social media manager. Yeah. Hey, they got a great opportunity. Join the new counterculture. It says they emailed your staff and said, "Come work for us instead."
Right.
That does not sound like something a friend would do.
No, and the only reason I'm showing you that is I'm not going to be showing receipts from third parties who are blameless victims, right? Gary said you can show that. He came right to me and said, "Hey, look, this came up." I said, "Hey, they'll probably offer you more money, and I'll write you a letter of recommendation." He said, No, I know you guys want to be monetized. And the issue that took place in the conversation, it might even be in the one that you saw where I said, like, they're like, well, we do have a social media department. I said, well, we do it here. That was the one thing that we talked about maybe splitting, I think, at some point. And I said, I have Gary, and he's awesome. So he was named.
How long after you did that call about the term sheet did they send this email?
I don't know the day. I know it was definitely after the talks completely fell through. So you probably have the timeline, but what happened is there was a week where the election happened, right? Rumble, because we were banned from YouTube going into the election, which I'm sure was a chance, just happenstance. And then we did that, and I thought I was really kind of securing the future, for my children. Because I'm like, okay, there are other players in this space. People kind of know I'm a free agent. Our performance on election night is going to be big because last time it was the biggest election stream ever, right? It was like 16, 17 million people across the platforms. We're only doing it on Rumble. So wanted to do that, and I was really nervous. Okay, it went well. Then I did 2 shows at the Ryman, the original Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. And some Daily Wire people came out, and the shows went really well. I mean, if people need, eventually I'll release a special, but if people need to see the clips. Standing O to both shows, and Dave was there and did fantastically well too. And you think, okay, you can't do any better.
Ruben?
No, it was just me and Dave.
Oh, Dave Landau.
Dave Landau, yeah.
Oh, right.
No. Yeah. I guess it could have been Ruben. I guess he does comedy stuff with Peterson. Yeah, Landau. And then after
you gave me that look.
No. I was just very confused. I thought that there were hallucinogens in here from because that's the first thing he asked me. He's like, "Have you ever taken hallucinogens?"
Said it wasn't in there.
Then after that,
trusted you.
So
after that, we'd had those conversations about like this. These are the sticking points, right? And please, like. We got to figure out a better way to do this because it stifles the movement. After that, it was, we're not going to be able to come to any kind of terms. And that was for sure after that conversation. I made one final plea.
After that conversation.
Final plea, and that called like, take me off the table. Promise me you won't do it to other people. And the question is, look, was your understanding when you invest money, when you subscribe, was your understanding that all conservative talent out there, nearly all, are penalized if they're demonetized? Was that your understanding? Was that your understanding that then they are penalized if they are suspended? Then they are penalized if they don't take as many lives? Was that your understanding when you were investing in people going out there and fighting for you? Because I know the feedback that I get at these live shows with thousands of people at every event. And it's not a hard-earned dollar that I take lightly. People feel powerless. They say there's only so much I can do. At least that guy can go out and fight for me. And I'd like it to be these guys and girls, not a guy.
And for context, too, it's very important. These fees pertain to strikes and bannings on the major big tech platforms,
right.
Irrespective of your viewership on the alternatives. We're all trying to help.
Or subscribership.
Right.
Or subscribers or sponsors.
Right.
And it's demonetization, too. That's
here's an important picture that should be painted. A lot of people are saying, Crowder, you recorded Jeremy. That's not what friends do. They're surprised by it. But here's what I'm seeing now. And, putting myself in the middle of this. You're
always in the middle of it,
Of course, that's what I do, right? But look, you go to the Daily Wire.
Phil, no, your term sheet. Okay.
You go to the Daily Wire. They say, here's a term sheet. You go, whoa, this is crazy. Right. Hey, you can't do this. The Daily Wire then says, all of a sudden, but a few months later, Crowder registers Stop Big Con. Then he calls and secretly records Jeremy. He was setting us up. This email right here paints a different picture in that you talked with the Daily Wire and said, here's our issue. Yeah. Here's what we can't do. And they said, okay. And then sometime later, they try poaching.
No, they said, if that's the issue, this is our business model, and you don't know business.
But then they try and poach one of your employees. One of your...
And that could be an accident, but it's not the first time.
Yeah.
Well, but you said you mentioned him by name. And
Gary,
employee poaching is considered vulture-ish as it is, but it is business.
And by the way, there's a huge difference between employees reaching out to you in a company and you fielding
you're
it,
available.
which happens, versus going to someone who is clearly not available, who is mentioned by name, saying this guy is awesome. And Gary's hilarious because he's Russian. He was born and raised in Russia until he was 13, but he seems totally American, no accent. But then occasionally you realize like he'll say something out of context, like I can kill 2 birds and get stoned or something.
That's me. But I'm Polish.
I've not said there's none of this controlled opposition. I 100% believe that Ben believes what he says, even if we disagree. None of that is taking place. The problem is when you demand that other people fall into line. But do you really believe for a second that Ben is so ignorant that he thinks that's $50 million a year in my pocket basketball money? Do you think Ben believes that?
He knows better.
Yeah, he said that. Is that honest?
Yep.
Is that honest? Now, if someone did that with you and said, Tim Pool is a money-grubbing prick, and we offered him basketball money, and someone came out and called you a little bitch, right? and that literally happened. and you had the ability to say, and you'd seen this happen to other people behind the scenes for years, and you said, that's not going to be me. You had the ability to prove that it was verifiably false, which no one is arguing. Would you do it?
Of course. Granted, I think there's a tactical difference between us as well in that I think you play warrior and I play rogue. Again, over your heads, but Ian's sitting there going like, right.
I do have an original copy of Chrono Trigger. So.
I mean,
hell yeah, dog.
Yes.
I would just put.
Is that your main
And by the way, he met a girl who grew up on my block. Apparently, I have her copy from Super Nintendo, like Star Wars Return of the Jedi.
Yes, Elaine Stokes. Yeah,
I'm surprised she didn't speak a word of English when I knew her when she was young.
Yep.
She's been holding on to that for a little while.
Okay, sorry. I didn't
She's
mean
still
it's crazy. Small world.
30 years.
My strategy would have been to poop on the contract.
Has always been money. I can't stress it enough.
So
it's not about the money.
So what is the future in your mind then? What needs to be done?
What first needs to be done is people to mean what they say. And if you are taking money from conservatives out there under the guise that you are fighting big tech, start fucking fighting big tech. Start with that. Okay, I don't know about and I know that when I say this, by the way, there are going to be 4 or 5 hatchet men coming from the Daily. I understand that, by the way. Have you seen anyone else in these videos? This is the first time Gerald's been here because I'm like, look, you handle the finances more than I do. It's me. It's 2-on-1. It's 3-on-1. It's 4-on-1. And gee golly, we thought we were friends. And you know what? I'm not going to call anyone a bitch. I mean what I said. Andrew Klavan's one of my all-time favorite people. I think Jordan Peterson is unbelievable. I go to the wall for that guy. I think Ben Shapiro is brilliant. Never met Candace Owens. Michael Knowles, my experience with him, I don't know him as well. I really like him. I like a lot of these people.
Good singer.
Is he a good singer?
He can play guitar too.
Well, he has that voice. I mean, Andrew Klavan, he told me he had that voice since he was like 6. Where he was like, well, teacher, on Parent-Teacher Appreciation Day, I'll give you an apple. And they were like, this is how you talk. And it's genuine. It's genuine. Here's the thing. Keep doing it if that's what they want. I'm not going to, at a certain point, my tolerance will run out. So send 4, send 5. At a certain point, don't send anyone you expect back in one piece.
But what will you make, right? You talked in the beginning, you're saying something about it's hard for everyone to just pay all across the board randomly to different people. Like if you want to support a creator, you're on one website, you're on another website.
Yes, yeah.
So how would you
It's a subscription fatigue, right? You have the same with like Netflix and Hulu. So can I answer your question with a question to Ovaltine? Nothing.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Do you think that when you are going to launch something independent, it's going to be Mug Club, but then you're going to add on shows. Do you think you'll be bigger than the Daily Wire?
I don't care.
No. Real question. Based on your memberships, based on the amount of views you get, do you think you will be bigger than? I'm not saying this as
it would if I decided that let me answer it this way. I've wanted to be done with this by the time I'm 40 as far as hosting the show on air. The last thing you want to do is overstay your welcome, and then move to I wouldn't say like necessarily like a Harvey Weinstein or like a Bruckheimer, but more like a Suge Knight.
How old are you now?
35.
Okay.
So and I want to be able to pass that torch.
When's your birthday?
July.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to be able to pass that torch. Right now, there is no ability to because you now realize there's no ability for people to come up and do. But it would be really hard for you to do what you do now today. You know that, right?
Yeah. And harder and harder.
And it'd be
every day.
harder.
Yeah.
It'd be impossible for someone to do what I do. I don't want to pull the ladder up behind me. So I want to be able to move into a production role. But really, what motivates me is being able to pass that mantle and make a difference. I guarantee you, if we were to do it, it'd be within striking distance of the big boys. Which I'd be fine with, but as long as we do something that we believe in, and I promise we will never demand people's YouTube monetization. We will never punish them if they are not, and it has to be something fair, and it has to be us not shortchanging the investor, meaning the people, Mug Club. It's entirely independent, paying us to fight for what they believe in. Whatever those numbers are, I'd accept them.
I'll tell you my prediction, which who knows could be worthless.
Yeah, Nostradamus hit me.
You launch subscription service, independent Mug Club. You get 300,000.
I mean, it all sounds about
the
right.
moment Ian became self-aware.
Let me read this one from Mason's mama. Tim is not asking the hard questions. Crowder lacks integrity. Name one creator Crowder launched. He has done the exact opposite. Not gay Jared Sven.
Yeah, they were on the show early on. We've had plenty of people who work on the show and then move on. When you're enforcing big tech by mandate, that's the sticking point.
David Minier says, I'm happy to spend $100 to tell Crowder he's a whiny baby. Daily Wire won this fight. Wasn't even close.
Okay.
You know.
He spent $100?
Can't
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
And then you made that money?
Yes.
That's a win.
Good for you.
75% of it or something.
Hey, listen,
$70 YouTube took 30.
Good for you.
or more. Yeah. We take a lot from the super chats.
So that should change too with these platforms. You should be
Hey,
getting all the revenue.
I'm gonna read just two more super chats.
Floating eyeball.
All right. First, Game Over says, I'm canceling my Timcast subscription for the CNN talking to Biden level of softballing.
Oh, come on.
No, that's fine. Look, if
What hard question did we dodge?
Well, I mean,
what did you not ask us that people were talking about?
About this topic.
I mean, I don't know. I think I've said it over and over again that I ideologically agree with Steven. I disagree tactically to a certain extent, like the recording of the phone call.
Yeah.
But you see the con- but you do see the
what am I
context
going to
being
do?
different.
Scold you? Am I going to scold you on the show and be like, "How dare you, Steven?" Or am I going to be like, "Tell me why you did it"?
Well, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Like you said, they say betraying a friend. I
Right.
say the betrayal. First off, it's been taking place for years. Betraying the movement, the people who support you and invest you. The first betrayal in this sequence of events was
The term sheet.
The term sheet, and yeah, well, you saw now with going after talent, right? Create behind the scenes poaching people. I can only show you one. I could tell you there's a lot more, but that guy said it's okay to show it. Hopefully, that provides a little bit more context.
I think we had a respectful and cordial discussion. I think just some people are asking if it was the agent or you that counter offered. That's what people are asking.
Hey, how are you, man? Steven Crowder. What's going on? Remember me? No. No? You don't remember me at all? Steven Crowder at all? No, not familiar? This is you threatening to slash my tires here? Quick question for you. Why would you encourage people to firebomb my van?